Ego has to be managed, not killed. Story time. There was a village and the kids were really scared of this snake. Once upon a time, wise person was passing through the village and the villagers sought his help to see if they could communicate with the snake. And this wise person had the ability to talk to the snake. And he asked the snake, he says, why are you bothering these kids? Let these people play and do their business. Don't bother them. He told the kids that I've spoken to the snake and you should be okay. A month later, the wise person was passing through the village. He saw the kids were all happy. Everyone was happy. He went to see the snake. He says, how are you doing? He saw the snake was all battered, broken. He says, what happened? He said, these kids are terrible. They drag me around, they toss me, they throw me, they pound me, they jump on me. I'm just not dead. That's the only thing that's left. Then this wise person told him, I never told you to stop hissing. Don't bite, but don't lose your hiss. Perhaps there is a lesson for us in terms of how to manage our egos. The idea is not to kill the ego or to be afraid of the ego or to be driven by the ego or to complain about the ego. It's about managing it. Let the ego not poison your life, whether it is my ego or somebody else's ego. Just remember, everybody has an ego and we need it. When my ego is creating problem in my life or someone else's life, or when someone else's ego is creating problem in my life, in other words, when I allow someone else's ego to rule me, to affect me in a way that I can no longer be myself. Idea is not to go full blown against that person, which is our tendency. I hate that person. I don't want to talk to that person, and so forth. Or to be afraid of that person. It's mostly we become afraid of those people, especially our loved ones. And we then end up making compromises in our relationship with our loved ones because we don't know how to manage their ego or our ego. Not to kill the ego, but to reduce it. So if I go on a crusade to say, I am going to kill the ego understands I'm going to be killed. So it becomes transformed. It's a chameleon. Ego is a figment of the mind, and the mind can come across living the same pattern or a message from a different vantage point, from the vantage point of dharma, of duty, of pityness, and so forth. It's an endless way it can camouflage itself to come across, to survive, to live. Instead, if we say, I just want to reduce it, imagine if there is an ego-related episode happening, let's say twice a week. This is okay. I want to reduce it by once a week, and then eventually once a month, then eventually once in a quarter, then eventually twice a year, once in 2 years, once in 3 years, once in 5 years, and once in 10 years. Even if it is once in 10 years, we never say, I'm going to kill it. I'm just reducing it a little bit more, just a tiny bit more. I'm cutting it down by 50%. I'm cutting it down by 25%. That's it. Over time, we just keep on cutting. It's one of those diminishing lines. It never reaches the zero. It meets zero at infinity point. Then the ego will not fight back. And in the meantime, I love me.